NCIS's forgotten legend from 23 years ago is Vance's perfect replacement. CIS remains without a director after Leon Vance died, but bringing back a forgotten franchise legend will make the perfect replacement. CBS's longest-running procedural has seen several losses in the past, both personally and professionally, for the MCRT. That said, arguably no one could have prepared for the brilliant death of Leon Vance in NCIS's 500th episode. While there were already rumblings about Rocky Carroll's potential departure were swirling all season long, the way his demise was executed was some of the show's best storytelling in its history. While Alden Parker's MCRT has been forced to move forward and continue their job after Vance's death, the off-camera happenings in Navy Yard are poised to determine the future of the team. NCIS hasn't made a big deal out of the interim directors that have since held the position, but the post continues to be vacant. The return of Gabriel LaRoche in the NCIS Season 23 finale effectively established him as a potential candidate. But if CBS wants someone that is more meaningful, bringing back a franchise legend, JAG's Harmon Rabb Jr., to replace Vance is the best route. On its own, NCIS is a TV institution, having been on the air for over 2 decades. That said, what's usually forgotten is that it's a spin-off of JAG, which was also created by Don Belisario. NCIS's backdoor pilot was in Ice Queen and Meltdown, where Leroy Jethro Gibbs's original MCRT first encountered the uniformed lawyers, led by David James Elliott's Harm. The last time Elliott reprised Harm was in NCIS LA for a multi-episode arc. By then, he was the executive officer, XO, of the USS Allegiance. Assuming that he remains involved with the Navy, it's possible that he could be brought in to occupy the directorial post. Whether that sticks or not for the long haul will be dependent on how CBS wants to tackle this new era of NCIS. And, of course, the actor's availability and willingness. Bringing in someone who has long ties to the Navy and the show itself is a great way to dissipate the immense pressure of finding someone that can be a worthy successor to Vance. While NCIS is not new to replacing iconic characters, as they did when Parker took over Gibbs's role, it was able to build up to that switch by introducing Gary Cole earlier, so he had some interactions with Mark Harmon. With Vance now dead, it would be beneficial to bring in someone already established to fill the void that he left. The first few seasons of NCIS attempted to establish stronger ties with JAG, but despite that, Elliott never actually appeared in the flagship. Because of that, it will be incredibly interesting to see him make his debut on the show more than 2 decades since he first crossed paths with Gibbs and his original MCRT team. Seeing Harm again after all these years will fit into NCIS's new storytelling approach, which leans more into its long history, as seen with the returns of Vera Strickland and Ellie Bishop. NCIS Season 24 is arguably the final stage in its evolution, following the departure of Gibbs half a decade ago. The death of Vance gives the procedural the chance to decide on its direction for the next several years. Acknowledging its ties to JAG after all these years will be a treat for those who have been following the project for years. Meanwhile, it's also a chance to introduce NCIS's parent series to those who might not know that it was born out of the success of another project. For more than a decade, director Leon Vance has served as the steady hand guiding the NCIS team through some of its darkest and most dangerous moments. Since taking over after Jenny Shepard's tragic death, Vance has become one of the most respected leaders in the history of NCIS. His calm authority, strategic brilliance, and unwavering loyalty have made him indispensable. But after 23 seasons, fans have started asking an inevitable question. If Vance ever decides to step down, who could possibly replace him? Surprisingly, the answer may lie not in the current bullpen, but deep within the show's history. In fact, NCIS introduced the perfect successor more than 2 decades ago, and many viewers have completely forgotten about him. That forgotten legend is none other than former director Tom Morrow. Long before Leon Vance became the face of NCIS leadership, Tom Morrow was the man calling the shots. Introduced during the earliest years of the franchise, Morrow played a crucial role in shaping the agency's identity. As director, he oversaw the major case response team during some of its formative investigations, establishing the standards and traditions that would eventually define the series. Yet despite his importance, Morrow has largely faded from the spotlight. For newer fans, his name may barely ring a bell. For longtime viewers, however, Morrow remains one of the franchise's most influential figures. Played with quiet authority and understated charisma, Morrow never sought attention. Unlike some later directors who became deeply involved in political battles or personal drama, Morrow represented stability. He trusted his agents, respected their instincts, and understood that leadership often means knowing when not to interfere. Sound familiar? Those qualities are precisely what have made Vance such an effective leader. In many ways, Tom Morrow was the original Leon Vance. Throughout the early seasons, Morrow frequently acted as Gibbs's protector within the larger bureaucracy of Washington. He understood Gibbs better than most senior officials, and often allowed him considerable freedom to pursue investigations in unconventional ways. While he occasionally clashed with Gibbs, their relationship was built on mutual respect rather than power struggles. That dynamic mirrors Vance's eventual partnership with Gibbs almost perfectly. The similarities don't end there. Both directors possess extensive field experience, exceptional political instincts, and a deep commitment to the agency above personal ambition. Neither man sought glory. Instead, they focused on ensuring their teams had the resources and freedom necessary to succeed. It's exactly the kind of leadership NCIS would desperately need should Vance ever depart. Of course, there's one obvious obstacle. Tom Morrow hasn't appeared on NCIS in years. After leaving the director's office, Morrow transitioned to the Department of Homeland Security before quietly disappearing from the franchise altogether. Unlike many departing characters, however, Morrow was never killed off. That detail is significant. In television, especially in the world of NCIS, a character who isn't definitively written out always has the potential to return. And what a return it could be. Imagine a future storyline in which Vance announces his retirement after decades of service. As NCIS struggles to identify a successor, familiar names inevitably surface. McGee lacks the political appetite. Parker remains happiest in the field. Torres would reject the desk immediately. Then, unexpectedly, the agency turns to a seasoned veteran with unparalleled experience, Tom Morrow. His return would instantly reconnect modern NCIS with its earliest roots while providing a seamless leadership transition. Even better, Morrow's long absence creates endless storytelling possibilities. What has he been doing all these years? How has the world changed since he last led NCIS? Would he approve of the agency's evolution under Vance? How would he interact with Alden Parker, Jessica Knight, Nick Torres, and Timothy McGee? The potential is enormous. Morrow could also serve as a mentor figure for the current generation of agents. One of NCIS's greatest strengths has always been its ability to bridge different eras of the franchise. Characters like Ducky, Gibbs, and Vance have each embodied institutional memory, preserving the traditions and values that define the agency. As veteran characters continue departing, that historical connection becomes increasingly important. Tom Morrow could restore it instantly. There's also a strong emotional component to such a comeback. Longtime viewers have invested decades in this franchise. Bringing back a character from the very beginning would reward loyal fans while introducing newer audiences to an often overlooked chapter of NCIS history. Television audiences love full-circle moments, and Morrow's return would provide exactly that. Perhaps most importantly, Morrow represents something increasingly rare in modern television: quiet competence. He doesn't need explosive confrontations, shocking betrayals, or elaborate conspiracies to command attention. His authority comes from experience, integrity, and wisdom. Those traits made him compelling 23 years ago. They would make him equally compelling today. Will NCIS actually bring Tom Morrow back? At this point, there has been no official indication that such a return is being planned. Still, the series has repeatedly surprised fans by resurrecting beloved characters and revisiting long-forgotten storylines. Nothing can ever be ruled out. And if the day eventually comes when Leon Vance leaves his post, producers may discover that the ideal replacement has been waiting in the wings all along, not a new character, not an ambitious outsider, but a forgotten legend who helped build NCIS from the very beginning. After 23 years, Tom Morrow may finally be ready to come home. Thank you for watching. Write what you think about it. Subscribe to the channel